In February 1959, 9 experienced Soviet hikers died in the Ural Mountains under circumstances so strange that the case stayed technically unsolved for over 60 years. Their tent was found slashed open from the inside. Their bodies were scattered barefoot in the snow. And some of them had injuries investigators couldn't explain for decades. This is a real, documented case, and the actual physics behind what likely happened is genuinely fascinating. The group was made up of 9 experienced mountaineers and students from the Ural Polytechnic Institute, led by Igor Dyatlov, on a skiing and climbing expedition through a remote section of the northern Urals. When they failed to check in on schedule, a search party was eventually sent out, and what they found was immediately unsettling. The group's tent was still standing, lightly dusted with fresh snow, containing all of their belongings, food, and boots still inside. But the tent had been cut open from the inside, not the outside, as if something inside the tent itself had caused the group to urgently slash their way out rather than exit through the actual entrance. Investigators followed a set of footprints leading away from the tent, and this is where the case becomes genuinely disturbing. The tracks showed the hikers had fled into sub-zero temperatures either barefoot or wearing only socks, with no coats, no proper boots, into a landscape that was brutally cold even by expedition standards. The footprints led investigators to 3 separate locations where bodies were eventually recovered, scattered across a wide area rather than found together. The injuries fell into 2 distinct patterns that made the case even more confusing. The first 5 bodies recovered showed straightforward signs of hypothermia, consistent with people who fled into freezing temperatures without proper clothing. But the remaining 4 bodies showed something far more severe: crushed chests and skull fractures, with no external wounds on the skin at all. One victim, Nikolai Thibobrignols, suffered significant skull damage. 2 others, Ludmila Dubinina and Semyon Zolotaryov, had major chest fractures that investigators compared to the kind of force generated in a car crash, an injury profile that seemed almost impossible to produce by simply falling or being struck by another person. Dubinina's body was additionally missing her tongue, eyes, part of her lips, and some facial tissue, details that fueled decades of speculation once photographs and case files became more widely available. For over 60 years, this combination of evidence, a tent cut open from inside, people fleeing barefoot into deadly cold, and injuries resembling a car crash with no external wounds, resisted a fully satisfying explanation. Early Soviet investigators closed the case citing a vague, compelling natural force, without further detail, which only added to decades of speculation ranging from secret military weapons testing to far stranger theories entirely. The real breakthrough came in 2021, when researchers Johann Gaume from EPFL and Alexander Puzrin from ETH Zurich published a physics-based study proposing a specific, testable mechanism, a slab avalanche. Earlier avalanche theories had been dismissed because the slope's angle seemed too shallow and there were no obvious visual signs of a typical avalanche. But Gaume and Puzrin's model incorporated something previous investigators hadn't fully accounted for. The hikers had cut into the slope to level ground for their tent, and strong, sustained katabatic winds, cold air draining rapidly downhill, had been depositing snow unevenly onto the slope above them for hours. Their model showed this specific combination could trigger a smaller, delayed slab avalanche capable of striking the tent with enough concentrated force to cause severe internal injuries, without leaving behind the dramatic visual devastation of a larger, more typical avalanche, and without the injuries needing external wounds, if the victims were pinned or crushed under snow against a rigid surface like a sleeping platform or their own gear. Multiple follow-up expeditions after the 2021 study confirmed the area is genuinely avalanche-prone under the right wind and snow conditions, and one expedition in January 2022 directly observed 2 fresh slab avalanches occurring under conditions matching those on the night of the incident. As for the disturbing missing tissue on Dubinina's body, forensic experts note her remains were recovered from a stream after weeks of exposure, conditions well known to accelerate decomposition and animal scavenging in exactly that pattern. So the Dyatlov Pass incident isn't really an unsolved mystery anymore, at least not in the sense of requiring anything exotic to explain it. It's a genuinely tragic case where a specific, rare combination of terrain, wind, and snow conditions created a delayed, low-visibility avalanche capable of producing injuries that looked, for 60 years, like they shouldn't have been possible.